Good morning, Stewart's Chapel. This is Brother Don Pierson here again with Don Counts, and this is Wednesday's devotion. We're in Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 20. Before we go to the scripture, let me remind you that this Sunday we'll be having our drive-in services in the parking lot of the church. The first two Sundays, they'll be at 10 o'clock, and the first two Sundays are a little bit more restricted. In other words, please don't roll your window down. Don't get out of your cars. The facilities will be locked. The only one out will be those who absolutely have to. You may be wondering about offering. I would encourage you to continue to do the same thing. Either mail your offering or do it online or through another means. At a later time, we will begin the offering. But if you can do that, we just don't want you or put anyone that would feel at risk in any sense of compromise, okay? So, Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 10, we're continuing with the message and the devotions we dealt with yesterday. And this is all about a man from Gadarene, or some would say from Pierson or Gadarene, the man from Gadarene. So we find this story about the man of Gadarene in Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 20. Quite a few verses. Let's read it. Then they, that's the disciples, came to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, to the country of the Gadarenes. And when Jesus had come out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, or a demon, who had his dwelling, who had been living or dwelling among the tombs, the graves, or the caves where they buried people in those days. And no one could bind him, not even with chains, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces. Neither could anyone tame him. Think about that for a moment. This man literally tore. The language there is very violent. He literally tore apart metal chains and broke shackles. No one could tame him. And always or continuously, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from afar off, he ran and worshiped him. And he cried out with a loud voice and said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you, I beg you, by God, that you do not torment me." Isn't that interesting? The man is in torment and has been for what appears to be most of his life. He is tormented day and night, cutting himself, tormenting. And Jesus comes in, and his first thing is, don't add to my pain. Don't you torment me anymore. Jesus said to him, "Come out of the man, unclean spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" And the man answered, saying, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Also, the man begged Jesus earnestly that he would not send them out of the country. Now, a large herd of pigs, swine, hogs were feeding there near the mountains. So all the demons begged him, saying, "Send us to the swine that we may enter them." Now, why in the world? I guess demons aren't real smart. I guess that's the closest thing. They didn't say, "Hey, send us into one of your disciples." He knew Jesus wouldn't do that. And you see those birds flying around, send me one to those. No, they picked the hogs. They picked the hogs of everything that was there. The demons evidently are opportunists. They seize what they can at the moment. And at once Jesus gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits went out and entered into the hogs or the swine, the pigs, and there were about 2,000 of those hogs. Now let me back up. You know how many a legion is? A Roman legion, it depends on, and as you look, do your search, you're going to find all kinds of numbers. It's anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000. So there's 2,000 hogs. In other words, there's not enough hogs for all of these demons. So these hogs are going to end up with more than one personality. Now, I don't know what a hog with a split personality looked like, but evidently it's pretty crazy, just like it is for a man. And so they run violently down the steep place. I can almost imagine all of a sudden 2 or 3 demons are fighting for the same hog. And when they get there, it's a fight in the mind. The hog's mind's crazy. Nobody's in control. And, well, pretty soon both the hogs and the demons lose. They run violently down into the sea and they drown in the sea. I don't know what happened to the demons after that. That's another message altogether. So those who fed the swine, they fled. They told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see, that is, those in the city and the country went out to see what had happened. Then they came to Jesus, and they saw the one who had been demon-possessed and had the legion sitting and clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. They had lived their whole life afraid of this man. They had tried to conquer him, subdue him. But now the man's in his own mind. You see, they're not afraid of the man anymore. They're afraid of Jesus. And those who saw it told them how it happened to him who had been demon-possessed and about the pigs, swine. Then the city and all the people begged and pleaded with Jesus to leave from their region. Well, when he got into the boat to leave, the one who had been demon-possessed begged Jesus that he might go with him. In other words, he wanted to follow Jesus. However, Jesus would not permit him to go, but said to him, "You go home to your friends and you tell them what great things the Lord has done for you and how he has had compassion on you." And he departed and began to proclaim it in Decapolis, that is the 10 cities, all that Jesus had done for him. And everyone marveled. So this man his name is not given like Mary of Magdala. All we know is this is a man from Gadarene. Now, the reason some of the translations will say Gerasene, because those were twin cities, literally side by side, Gerasene and Gadarene. There also cities of Galilee. They are some fishing cities, just like the place of Mary Magdalene. But this is farther up. This is closer to where the exit of the Sea of Galilee. In other words, they're down on the end where the Jordan River flows out of the Sea of Galilee into the Dead Sea. The city of Gadarene means a place of flight. Isn't that interesting for a city? A place of flight. It's a place that you would flee to. There were cities of refuge in Israel. This is not one of them. But the name would almost imply that it was some type of a place of refuge where you would run or flee to. What's interesting, this man could not find a place in the city. He had fled from the city to the place of the dead. So let's talk about the man, and then let's talk about what does a man of Gadarene who believes in Jesus look like. Well, the man's a Gentile. This is a Gentile city. That's why they're swine. Even historically, these two cities, these two twin cities, are known as Gentile cities. They're not Jewish cities. So this man's probably a Gentile. if he had gone, if Jesus had allowed him to come, he would have still been a Galilean like all the other ones, but he would have been the first Jewish disciple. He's been living with the dead. He is powerful. He's been in constant pain and torment. He knows who Jesus is. He has plenty of demons. But who is he when faith comes to his life, when Jesus comes to him? Who is he then? Well, like Mary Magdalene, he's free of his demons. His torment is gone. His sin and his corruption, his torment night and day ends. He is transformed. He is transformed physically. His language transforms. His crying out in the night, he no longer seeks to inflict pain or harm to himself. He leaves the place of the dead. In other words, he has nothing in common with them no more. So a person who is a follower or a believer of Christ, who's a man from Gadarenes, they flee. They leave the city of flight. They flee their past. They flee those who are walking but are dead. They flee those who are still in bondage. They're a follower of Jesus. They want to follow Jesus. They don't want to follow anyone else. They're extremely devoted, and again, like Mary of Magdala, they're extremely appreciative. They're a witness, just like her. He's a witness. He goes to the city, does exactly what Jesus tells him to do. He's obedient, he's submissive, and he's a witness, and many marvel or believe. He sacrifices. He doesn't say, well, you know what, I'm in my right mind and now I can get a job and have a family. And I don't know, he may have and eventually had all those. But what the scripture shares with us is that he set all that aside for a season. He had a different calling now. So, what about you? What does a man or woman of Fayetteville, Flintville, who's given their life to Jesus, who's had Jesus change and transform them, what does that person look like? Take a good look, Stewart's Chapel.